A German court has now issued an arrest warrant for Markus Jooste, the former chief executive officer of the scandal-ridden retailer Steinhoff International Holdings NV. The trial is the first criminal charge against Jooste to be heard since Steinhoff's collapse 5 years ago over that accounting scandal. He's accused of accounting irregularities at the company, which first surfaced in 2017, which set the share price of the company into a spiral downward, and it led to several investors suffering huge losses, chiefly among them the Public Investment Corporation, which put in millions of rands in government's employee pension funds. For more on this, we're joined by SABC News correspondent Trent Murray, who is in Berlin. Trent, good afternoon and welcome. Jooste seems to have been avoiding his day in court, or saying that there were real issues why he couldn't be in court. He was a no-show in April for what would have been the start of his trial. What is the latest development on this arrest warrant?
Well, that no-show did not impress German prosecutors, it has to be said. I've spent much of the afternoon on the phone to sources at the prosecutor's office, and what we can confirm right now is that an arrest warrant by that court in Oldenburg has now been approved by the judge. Prosecutors were successful in their case in arguing that an arrest warrant should be issued to try and force Mr. Jooste to that court in Oldenburg. And so what we know now is that legally it will go to the state court, the higher court here in the German system, where they will hear an extradition order case. In other words, a case to effectively have South African authorities force Mr. Jooste onto a plane and to come here to Germany. Now, we are not at that stage yet, but this is a monumental step forward for the prosecution in trying to make sure that Mr. Jooste does have his day in court here in the German system.
It would seem that some of the quote-unquote justification that he gave about having, passport or, paper-related, travel document-related issues didn't hold any sway with the court there.
Not with the judge, it would appear, or the prosecutors. There was a lot of legal back and forth over all of this in April. The defence effectively said that his passport had been surrendered to South African authorities. Now, when SABC News made some inquiries over that claim to the Hawks, for example, they said, we don't have the passport. It seemed it was the most mysterious passport on the continent of Africa. Nobody could really work out where it was. That argument has been had in the German court, and it would appear that the judge just did not buy the argument, and so they are now going to try and force Mr. Jooste's defence team's hand in all of this. Wherever the passport is now, it would appear it doesn't matter, because they're going to try and force him to get here via an extradition treaty.
As you say, the wheels have been set in motion for it ultimately to result in Markus Jooste, arriving in Germany and appearing in court to stand trial. But for the benefit of our listeners, just share with us the difference between the gravity of what happened in South Africa vis-a-vis Steinhoff and the charges that he is facing in Germany.
Look, I think it's fair to say that the case and the accusations he faces in South Africa are much larger. The reason Germany is involved in this at all is because Steinhoff is listed on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange as well, of course, a major multinational with offices here. And there are accusations that some of those accounting irregularities which we saw take place in SA did also take place here, certainly including some of the subsidiaries that reported to head office in South Africa. That is what tweaked the interest of people at the tax office here and fraud investigators, which is why they've launched this major case. I mean, you go into the courtroom during these cases and you see mountains of documents that the Germans have assembled. They clearly believe they have got a strong case. What they were not impressed by was that when they presented that case, that the accused just did not show up. There was no expectation of this. It was a real surprise come April. what I can tell you about the German system is that they do not like surprises. And that is why the judge, I think, has it would appear, agreed with the prosecution's argument that Mr. Jooste it isn't looking likely that he's going to want to appear voluntarily, which is why they're going to have to keep the wheels in motion on this forced legal procedure. As I say, it's really important to stress that this court decision that we're talking about now won't force him here. It still has to go to a higher court. But again, the prosecution believe they've got a pretty strong case in order to make that extradition request official with the South African authorities.
And no doubt we'll be watching those developments very, very closely. Trent Murray, thank you very much for that update. Our SABC news correspondent live for us from Berlin.